Welcome to another rough loss, your week 8 meltdown against the Minnesota Vikings. I'll start off this show by saying I would think happy Halloween, but I should probably say happy Groundhog's Day for how this team has looked this whole entire season in the same reoccurring terrible movie over and over again. And I think the best way to sum up yesterday's loss and describe it is I had family in town. I was in attendance for the game. I had my two nieces at their very first Packers game. And even with 2 or 3 boxes of candy, this team still somehow lulled an 8 and a 6-year-old girl to sleep there in the second half and couldn't keep them attentive for the game. So I think that pretty much puts a cap on it
Oh,
as far as how to describe the same game that we're watching over and over again. I don't even know if we do an episode today. Just basically, hey, watch last week's recap. That'll sum it up. But hey, that said, at least to start off with some good news, Dave, let's go ahead and open up this tab, and we'll leave it up to you to be able to announce what our breaking news was here to start off this fine Monday.
yeah, we got the Rashawn Gary extension done today, so that was nice. It was the day before the trade deadline. I don't know if that had anything to do with it. I don't know if they were sitting on it for a while and just hoping that, like, hey, maybe the Packers win a game and we can announce this news after the game, but that never came about. So they announced it today. Rashawn Gary gets 4 years, $107 million. You're extending your best player on the team, without question. So yeah, we're keeping him intact. He's going to be part of this rebuild. It's not a retool. I'll tell you that much. So he's going to be part of the rebuild. He's going to be the veteran guy that the young guys that they're going to try to bring in lean on. I'm happy for Gary, man. He comes back from the ACL. He's a high motor, hardworking guy with a bunch of talent. He looks like he cares down in, down out. So it's a good player to keep as the core of your team.
He's one of those players I think he represents what the Packer way is all about. And I don't think he really has any other interest outside of football. Like, I think this is where he puts all his time and dedication to. I remember during the off season, they're like, hey, you got a little bit of time away during off season. What'd you do with it, Rashawn? He's like, I worked out and I trained. What else is there to do?
He's not AJ Dillon mowing fake crops on his simulator.
No, not mowing fake crops. I don't think he's taking trips to Cabo. He's just putting in the work all year round in true Bane Gary fashion. But yeah, that's one to definitely celebrate. Of he's going to be a fixture of the defense for years to come, and happy for it. He's earned every penny of that contract. And that said, Dave, do you think it'd be a good idea to start with the defensive side of the ball? I know that we're basically like rehashing the same
Yeah.
material and same lines from the last 5 or 6 weeks on offense. But what are some of your thoughts when it came to this Packers defense yesterday against noon Kirk Cousins?
Yeah. Well, first of all, you feel bad for Kirk. Like, I know it's the Vikings and people can talk about the Vikings all they want. Never want to see guys go down, especially guys like Kirk Cousins. Seems like a really humble family guy. I've never had a problem with Kirk Cousins. I've always enjoyed watching him, no matter what the media or fan bases say about primetime games, playoff games. Speedy recovery. I think that's his last snap as a Viking. I think they move on from him. But with that point, transitioning to the game, as it was going early on, I thought it was going to be very much a Lions type game. I thought the Packers weren't moving on offense. The Vikings were up 10 and they could have easily kept running it up, and then they just seemed to stall out. They were kind of shooting themselves in the foot because the Packers were getting into 3rd and 8, and it seemed like 3rd and 8 they would always pick up 12 yards, and it was just one of those infuriating type games where the Vikings weren't really doing much on offense, but they were doing just enough, and the Packers were letting them get away with just enough.
Tell you what, I was pretty ecstatic when we went into half, despite some of the statistics. And you texted me the yardage difference of, like, in the first quarter, it was 126 to -5. And I saw a stat after the game that we have 15 penalties in the first quarter of this season compared to 13 points. And I'm like, hey, I'll take that as a win. We still got a whole second half to play, and it's a one-score ball game.
Yeah.
I'm like, the score definitely doesn't tell the whole tale of it. But I thought that was pretty good for our defense once again, hold us in it. But and then open up the third quarter, and they put up 7 in their opening drive, and then interception led to 24-10. Our offense is resorted to the 2-minute drill. As far as like the game plan, though, I don't know if it's that because Jair's back is still hurting him, and he had some really interesting comments to say in the locker room afterwards, whether or not that he could play the same level as what he could. But watching Jair play off coverage, and same thing with Rasul and the rest of the secondary. I think back, it was like 2 completely different opposite games last year against the Vikings. You had week 1 where we let Justin Jefferson run free, and we played this sort of soft zone and people picking up from one zone to the next and passed them off. And we didn't do a great job of it. And then we had smothering defense, and we were playing press against Justin Jefferson, and we're all up in Kirk's grill that second time around. This defensive game plan, Dave, looked a lot like more of week 1 in TJ Hawkinson running free. We had Jordan Addison looking like a Pro Bowl wide receiver. And to me, it just reminded me of that week 1 loss last year against the Vikings in this game plan on defense with not a ton of pass rush either.
There was 3 plays that really stood out for me defensively for the Packers that the Vikings clearly took advantage of what we were doing. There was I think it was third quarter, Claiborne was on the left side, and Rasul had him, and then it looked like Rasul said, like, their code word for pass off, and he just ran straight up the middle and got, like, 35 yards. The other one was the Hawkinson play, where he was just, no one was covering him, and I think they even dropped, like, 8 guys in coverage on the play. And then the third play was the touchdown to Hawkinson, where Rasul had that outside zone, and it looked like he was expecting safety help on the inside, and there just was zero. The Owens went with the outside receiver and just vacated the entire area. And Rasul, does his thing when he gets beat or expects help, and he does the stomping around and looking around and the arms waving of what's going on here.
Yeah, and even when you watch the condensed tape, like they only show replays of certain plays.
Okay.
Now that one you're talking about to Osborne,
Osborne, I'm sorry.
I want to say it's Osborne opening up the third quarter, and Rasul, you see him passing off to Quay, but he clearly misses it, and I mean he's got like no one around him, 10 yards, and he catches that pass.
Yeah.
I'm like, that looked like Justin Jefferson week 1 of last year, and like I made a note of it because I've been like harping on this point for so long. Get Love under center. I think it puts him in rhythm. Kirk Cousins was under center predominantly the whole game there for the Vikings. I'm like, I would love to see more of that out of the Packers offense. And then the one thing which I think, to your point, they're really picking up on the Packers defense. They're doing a lot of bunches. Like, What was it? Rasul gave up a touchdown. Was it last week or the week before? That wasn't really his fault with like a rub route, and then like the receivers wide open and Rasul can't get over top of it. Like, offenses are clearly picking up on that in the game plan that we don't do well with the bunches, and we're getting away from letting our quarterbacks play press, and probably partially that is because of Jair's injury.
It seems like such a basic thing, but the Packers struggle mightily with communication. Like they have for years, where in terms of its passing off guys and stuff like that. That's why I'd much rather just the Packers run man. Because it's just like, okay, if you get beat, at least the guy should be somewhat in the vicinity of you. Like this zone stuff, they never get the pass offs right. When they bunch, guys are super confused with what zone they're actually taking, what guy they're taking. There's always guys running free into this secondary. It's mind blowing. The play that probably stands out that Packers just can't afford to let go anymore. And you texted me, should he have had it? The one that hits Quay in the hands and he just drops. I understand linebacker position. The ball comes on you pretty hot. Looks like it was a throw that kind of, instead of him catching it, the ball kind of caught him type thing. Packers can't afford to miss the interceptions, or if there's a fumble on the ground to not recover it. Like they're not good enough to get away with missed opportunities like that.
No. I think that's like a microcosm of the whole season when either the ball bounces your way or it doesn't. Like that 56-yard Mason Crosby field goal against the Vikings last year to head into half. You're like, all right, everything's rolling our way.
Right.
It's like when you see Quay drop interception. It was like the same thing against the Falcons. I love that he's he's in great positioning. He's reading plays a lot better than what he did last year. But he's like, if you don't come down with that interception, that's kind of how the rest of the game unfolds too. And it's like that same thing. It's like the best play of the game, I thought, was that Romeo Dobbs third down conversion with Love escaping the pocket and hit him along the sideline. He got his 2 feet in, and there was a penalty that brought it back. I'm like, all right, we're going to get a first down here in the first quarter. Not quite as much, but it's like when those 2 plays don't go your way, that kind of shows the luck of the season, and just it's kind of like the Chiefs, I want to say, from 2 years ago, that the Monstars from Space Jam got robbed of their superpowers. It's like the same thing. Now, we don't have a ton of superpowers to begin with, but it's like when those 2 things happen, you're like, yep, that's just kind of how our season's been going.
The Packers had more penalties called against them than they had points yesterday. So it's not a winning formula.
And what about the pass rush, too, on defense? I was calling for more blitzes from corners or sending Quay or Devondre. Like our front four, like Rashawn just got his contract, but I think this was probably one of his, I'm sorry to say it, but like worst games from a pressures and hurries standpoint. Like we're having a tough time getting home. Now I know Preston, I want to give him a game ball and probably player of the game, but just sending front four, like Kirk Cousins had a pretty darn clean pocket the whole game.
Yeah, we're starting to enter this part of the season where there's certain guys that just need to start taking snaps away from veterans because you just want to see what you have. Like I need to see Van Ness on the field more. Put him put him on the line or put him opposite of Gary. I like what I saw from Wooden. There's a couple of snaps. Wooden just busted right through. Put him in more. Brooks, same way. Brooks seems like he can generate a pass rush. I think there might be some changes on the horizon on the deadline. I think the Packers are going to be sellers. I hope they're sellers. If they're buyers for this team, I'm going to be pissed because I don't think this is a team that is even close to contention. So I don't know why you would be trading future draft capital to try to build up this team as of right now. But there's just guys that I just want to see now take some snaps. I want to see Wicks start getting more involved, even though he had a drop. There's a lot of blame right now for the coaching. It's not a disciplined team. The roster of the guys that they prefer, it seems like there's a lot of fans that don't prefer the lineup that they're going out with. And then play calling, defensive coordinator and offensive coordinator, you could just say, what's your game plan here?
Yeah, as much as I would think that we're sellers too. Like I think you got to read between the lines and notice that it took 8 weeks to get Yosh Nijman into the offensive lineup.
Yeah.
And just once again, it's reluctant to change. We've been sort of beating this same drum for how many years now as Packer fans? Like reading between the lines of that, I have a feeling that we're going to stay put and you're not going to see a whole lot of movement come the trade deadline yesterday, even though I know we both have our players. And hey, the bright side is though, Preston Smith, he dressed up as Michael Myers for the game. I know he had a couple of sacks late against Kirk Cousins and their backup quarterback. I thought he played really well. If there's anybody who generated a pass rush, it was him. And he had the best pass coverage in the game against TJ Hawkinson on the goal line. He's finally getting more snaps as a cornerback and getting into coverage. He's getting much more comfortable with his role in the secondary. And I think he had the best pass coverage on TJ Hawkinson for the game.
That's not a game plan. It's not.
That shouldn't be something that you're raving about to hand out a game ball. But hey, 4 quarterback hits, 2 sacks, 1 forced fumble, and the best pass coverage and closest defense on a Vikings receiver tight end for the whole game. So, hey, let's keep playing 91 out there in coverage because it's paying off.
I have him on my block, man. I think that there's a good chance that they move Preston. I think there's a chance that Keyshawn could go as a returner somewhere, someone looking to bolster the special teams. You've mentioned Yash. Um, it's super small, but I wouldn't also be surprised if people were calling about Jair either. It's on a struggling team. You could get a first round pick for him. It's an unpopular opinion, but you kind of, I don't know, in 3 years, is Jair going to be the same corner? 4 years, is Jair going to be the same corner we need him to be when this team's finally fully loaded again?
I believe him. The only thing that I have a little bit of trouble with when it comes to Jair is some of the comments he's made in locker room interviews. I know I can be rather critical of that and like things Aaron Rodgers has said in the past. I guess I just don't quite agree with some of those locker room statements about the defense and talking about his back yesterday. If there's anybody that I thought has had great leadership on this defense, and maybe subpar play or okay play has been Darnell Savage. Like they showed a clip of him this week, like going around and shaking all the hands of the players, even though he's on a 4-week IRR.
Right.
Like Matt LaFleur's brought him up on a lot of occasions. That's my type of leadership quality. And I think he said all the right things along with Rasul Douglas. There's just been a couple of sort of questionable things by Jair that I'm like, all right, is he all in for this Packers squad?
I think Rasul's the heart of the secondary. The way he plays, the way he just looks like he actually wants to be out there playing football, the way he's trying to rally guys. I think Rasul was kind of taking the crown of the heart of the secondary.
Agreed. And switching over the offense, you touched upon it. Like there has been some murmurs going through the Green Bay Packers community and fan base of having more targets go towards Dontavian Wick's way. PFF grades him out. I think he was like the 28th best wide receiver in terms of yak coming into this game. I'm sure I know he had the drop, but he seems to be the one wide receiver creating quite a bit of separation. He's got a really good release game, like another Tay and Devontae Adams. Like I know we got to get the ball in the hands of other playmakers, but he seems to be the one that can find ways to get open on these third downs.
I like his frame a lot. He's, he looks like he's a big, easy target to kind of hit him on. There's going to be drops. It's frustrating as all get out. There's going to be drops because they're so young, even though they've been playing football forever. That's one of the things to catch. I mean, we had Aaron Jones drop a pass. Then you had Musgrave, and then Wicks and Watson, and you name pretty much the entire any receiver that was out on the field had dropped yesterday. But still go to the guys. Dial up stuff for the guys. Watson looks like he's a shell of himself. Maybe that's just how they're covering him. Dobbs, you would have liked to see kind of more of him, but I mean, he's still producing in the red zone, but you need him to produce at the other parts of the field. So all these guys are young, right? But Reed and Wicks look very promising.
Yeah, and you can tell that Love, while he did seem unfazed for most of the season and with the pass rush, and he's not, he didn't blink. I think it's starting to get to him. JT O'Sullivan and QB school last week brought up how he's seeing like Love goes for his first reads, feels a little bit of pressure. He like runs up in the pocket and does this like jump pass down the field that worked out pretty well against the Broncos. And then like this week, like I think that he's just frustrated towards the end. Like there was a couple times with like a Dobbs deep pass, Watson a couple times that he was just off the mark. Like it starts to take its toll after some time on a quarterback with drops and the offensive line. And LaFleur talked about in his press conference, he's like, we couldn't really get into our game plan or the script because we're playing 2-minute offense when we're getting down by multiple scores.
How many times have we heard that this year? Just like we can't get into our game plan.
Yeah, it's the same old rehash. And you take a look at like the first 4 drives, or even like the first 2 or 3. You have us getting stuffed in the backfield on a 3rd and short, and Myers whiffing on his block. You had a Rasheed Walker giving up a sack after we chipped the player too, and he still completely misses on the block, and he's on skates. Thank God that we put Yash in there. And then the following possession, we had John Runyon Jr. with a hold and leads to another 3 and out. and then the biggest ovation of the day when we finally got our first down with Christian Watson. But it's like 2 out of those first 4 drives, that's the offensive line being responsible for us not picking up the sticks. Like, how do you combat something like that?
Well, their plan was for the last week or two to put more tight ends, less routes out there and keep the tight ends to chip or to just help out the tackles. But the tight ends aren't holding up either. DeGuara had a terrible missed block that I saw on the rewatch. Musgrave looks like he's on a hockey rink where he just gets bull rushed right back into it. Kraft, I mean, I haven't seen too much from Kraft yet either. So it's like, okay, if no one can block it up, just send everyone out on a bunch of routes, right? Because then Love has options. But instead, they're doing 2-man, 3-man route combinations. The guys aren't getting open on their routes, and Love doesn't have time to hold the ball because the guys are right in his lap. So it's just a combination of nowhere to throw and no time to throw.
I will say the one play that I think has been working out well the past 2 weeks has been checking it down in the flats to A.J. Dillon. He had like 3 catches where he turned upfield and was moving the pile to put us in like a second or a third and short or even a first down. Like that's one play that we can hang our head on, Dave. So that's great. And we finally canned the end around for this week.
It was fantastic.
Yeah. So there's some areas for improvement and for some plays for us to lean on. I know those like 3 or 5 yard outs, but like Jaden Reed, like that can be a bit of a staple that can get our offense going. But it's like, oof, like what do we need to do in this script? Because it's such a momentum game that I'm like, once we get a first down in the first quarter, like I think that does change it and that gets us on track and in rhythm to put up points, and that can lead to victories. But it's like, Jiminy Christmas, how many games we're gonna have to see this?
It's been interesting the last 2 or 3 weeks, Jones' usage, because I know he's been hurt. There's always been questions the last couple of years about Jones' usage of how many snaps he gets. I know he's coming off the hamstring, but the trade deadline is tomorrow, man, and he gets hardly any touches anymore. And I'm thinking that they're rolling out A.J. Dillon more. They might ship him out tomorrow. They got Robinson now from I think he's the old Jacksonville running back that they grabbed, and he's on the practice squad. So maybe they're like, all right, we'll get something for Aaron Jones. Dylan could get his, 15, 20 touches. We could see what he's like as a rhythm bruising running back. And then we have Robinson as the fast change of pace back.
Jones would be as much as I hate to say it.
I know. I love Aaron Jones.
Yeah, everybody loves Aaron Jones. Like he's a Packer for life. He's probably going to be one of those players like a Jordy Nelson that you look back on. You're like, you couldn't find a better person who represented the green and gold with the yes sirs and everything else. But hey, with the underutilization of him, the sort of knick-knack injuries, if there's the first like number 1 player on my trading block, it's going to be Aaron Jones for tomorrow. Yeah. Unfortunately, it's kind of like you look at all of like our elder statesmen on the team, whether it's him or Preston, box out for the year. Then you got Devondre Campbell. Like those are all those players are kind of the ones that I'd be selling at this moment.
If you're in your late 20s or in your 30s, there's a good chance that you will not be on this Packers roster.
Yeah, I think there's an age discrimination against it too, and maybe a potential HR issue that they're going to have on their hands. No, all kidding. Dave, like last point on offense that like I got to bring up. I know I brought it up last week as well. Like where are these under center plays? That looks like is when Jay Love is able to, get into rhythm. He's going through his reads much better than us spreading them out. And like, he kind of looks like a deer in the headlights at times. Like, I don't want to put it this way, but like Mitch Trubisky for the Bears, when he was going through his woes, like they super dumbed down the playbook for him. They got him on a lot of like under center, play action rollouts, move in the pocket, left or right. Like, what is our sort of like nemesis with getting Love under center much more when we saw the amount of success that the Niners have and even what Kirk had yesterday?
I'm not in their room. I'm not going over it. The only logical explanation I can have for it is they want Love to have his pre-snap down better. Maybe shotgun gives him a chance to read the defense better than being right at the line of scrimmage. That's the only logical thing I could think of for the advantage for the quarterback for being in shotgun was being able to survey the pre-snap read better.
He looks so much more comfortable when you get him under center with the play action fake every time.
Maybe they're just like, our line can't hold if we drop back 3 steps, so we got to just keep them back in the shotgun, give them extra time.
Yeah, maybe for this game, it's a matter of they know the Vikings blitz a ton, so they're a little bit reluctant to put him under center as well. Just looks like two different quarterbacks in shotgun versus under center. Dave, do you have anything else to touch upon for this offense? The woes that we continue to have, it gets worse before it gets better, and
it's gonna be the same thing next week, man. Like we're in purgatory. I told you before the show, I think they get max 2 wins is the new ceiling for this Packer team. 2 more wins, so the ceiling's now at 4, and it's like you get lucky against a team, and then you get like another crappy opponent that you could just beat up on. But this is a bad football team. We are going to get Devin Hine back on here to admit that this is a bad football team.
You got me joining your camp. We need one more in Devin Hine. He could easily be watching here today. And Dave, it's funny because we're only 8 weeks in, and I find myself selling to my family or other people that I talk to. I'm like, hey, we used to be good. Trust me. It's like, their first game watching the Packers. I'm like, saw Clinton Dix coming out of the tunnel as part of the alumni group and Eddie Lacy. I'm like, I don't know if you guys know who those players are, but we used to be really good when we had them. Back in 2014, it was an extremely memorable year. Like, things are really special. Like, it wasn't that long ago that the Packers used to win a ton of football games. And at Lambeau, it felt so different. Like, people talk about the field being tilted in your favor. Like, you just automatically had momentum on your side with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback and the offense and how free-flowing they were able to move the ball that we took for granted. And now there's like this really weird, eerie feeling when we're on offense with Jordan Love and this Matt LaFleur-led team. Like, you can just it's something that you can feel in the air so far that something just feels so off.
So, real quick on Love before we wrap this up, I don't think he's really getting a fair shake. I mean, he doesn't have an offensive line. He has no weapons that are catching or getting open for him. Clearly, the people that are against Love are very pro Rodgers, are saying, see, told you Rodgers has been having this team on his back for the last decade. I think if Rodgers was on this team today, I think he would even struggle. I think you'd see a lot of eye rolls. I think you'd see a lot of frustration. I think you'd see a lot of yelling. They probably have a little bit more than 2 wins, but it would look really, really ugly.
And I would, so potentially 3 wins. And I say that if it's the Saints game and how much that this team's young and naive and they don't know any better and they fall back, like, they continue to fight each game. Like, it's not like we throw in the towel and teams are just running up the score on us. Like, we continue to attack it. And I think Rodgers will give us 3 wins, but I don't know if he's coming back from that 17-point deficit against the Saints in that fourth quarter rally. Like, the team didn't throw in the towel for that one. But yeah, there's other ones that
probably Falcons or something like that. But the thing that with Rodgers was never I'm going to pull the team up and we're going to come back from 10, 14 points down. When things started going sideways, Rodgers got more frustrated. Love on the Saints game, the team seemed to rally around Love. Like, I like the energy and stuff like that. So, but I digress. That's just my point, my vision that I've thrown out. This is just a completely different team from a year ago. You lost all your veterans. You're basically starting over.
Does it at least make it a little more enjoyable to watch on like the TV broadcast and not having the camera pan to Aaron Rodgers and his disgruntled looks or him shouting at Josiah DeGuara?
It's not only that, it's everything. I mean, everyone enjoys winning, but when you get into, I guess, the fandom that me and you put ourselves in, it's a lot more stress of just, man, I'm looking at seeding. I'm looking at how we're matching up. I'm looking at other teams like the 49ers of, man, how are we going to beat them if we have to go to San Francisco? And you're just like taking it week by week, and you can just feel the stress level go up. And then the eventual heartbreak on the playoffs is just kind of like, God, now we got to start this all over next year. Don't get me wrong. 12 wins, 13 wins. It's always like, man, you got 13 weeks to celebrate and be like, what a good game. And you can't wait to watch the rewatch. But now it's more low key. It's just watch it with the family. if my daughter pulls me to the side, we're down 10, the team's sputtering. She's like, here, can you help me draw this? Or she's in my face talking to me about some story that she wants. It's like, okay, yeah, fine. I'll take 5 plays off. Oh, we're punting again? Okay, fine. All right.
Here's my sister's like, Jordan, you seem so zen at Lambeau.
Yeah.
She's like, you really positive about it. I'm like, hey, I'm kind of over it at this point, and we root for first downs and plays that look good. I guess a really good question to pose for, yourself and other Packer fans for leading into next week and potentially another loss. Like, which losing streak is worse? The last year's 5-game skid that we had, or this year's now 4-game losing streak? Like, which of those two?
This is worse.
This one, you're feeling this one's already taking the cake?
This is worse because it's like we're just spiraling. Last year there was like hope of like, okay, like this can happen, like we're fine, like, and then it would just be something else that popped up, and it'd be like, oh man, like, okay, we got another one slip away. This is just like, I don't know where the losing streak is going to end. Like, it could very well carry us through the rest of the entire year.
And it's just, this first quarter offense, like, it makes it difficult on us coming on here every single week and trying to find something new about, or us to find answers when we don't get paid for this. And you got head coaching staffs that spend 60, 70 plus hours that aren't able to find answers either. Like, that's the most difficult part about this season to date. But
there's going to be some games coming up where if we start the same way, you're going to see pretty much what you saw in the Lions, 28-0 at halftime, 35-3 by the third quarter. Like, there's some teams on the coming up schedule that are going to pounce on us.
Cough, cough, Chiefs, cough, cough, Chargers, and hey, let's get Sean Clifford some snaps.
No, God.
Hey, why not? Hey, if it's mop up duty, put him in there. I almost go as far as saying if you're down 35-3 in some of those games, you're going to see some Sean Clifford snaps in the fourth quarter.
Okay. We're going to leave that one on that one.
Not to say there's a quarterback controversy, but hey, there's people in the crowd asking for Clifford.
There was some chatter in the Lambeau Stadium for Clifford yesterday. Yes.
Not warranted, but I think he'll at least maybe get some, can't hurt snaps.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to pop on again next week or this week. We're going to watch a game. We're going to see if the script is any different. And we might pop on if there's any news about some transactions that pop up this way.
There's still reason for hope, Packers Nation.
Jordan, well, you have a good week. I don't know if the game's going to be any good, but try to be lighthearted about the situation.
I will. Hey, my head stays up. Before kickoff, they said tickets were at $60 before game time against the Vikings. So nice on the wallet.
If they really start dropping on like StubHub or Ticketmaster or something, I might pop back up there.
As it should. That shows a true diehard.
Like if they're like 3 wins in or something like that, and it's just like, hey, like half the stadium's empty, or it's like the opposing team is coming to Lambeau, I might pop back up there.
Yeah, we can sit in the front row. No one else will be there.
That'd be great. Yeah, just sit with Matt LaFleur.
Yeah, call a play.
All right, man. That would be great. A fan gets to call a play. Maybe they'll do that by the end of the year. Put on the Jumbotron, you get A, B, C, or D. You like vote for your option.
Oh, Lord.
All right, Jordan. See ya, buddy.
Later, Dave.